Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Easern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that road line, the Hotdish highway. Was builded on the prairie, was not sheltered by a tree, where the wildflowers bloomed around it, and the wild winds were so free. Its walls were made of sod, of which there was no lack, poplar poles for rafters in the old sod shack. It's nearly vanished now. It brings our memories back. We once had homely comforts in the old sod shack. It cost us very little to uprear our domicile, little patient labor, and our home was up in style. Small need there was for nails, and we owed no lumberjack for the shingles on the roof of the old sod shack. Oh, it's nearly vanished now. It brings our memories back. Oh, we once had homely comforts in the old sod shack. It's nearly out of use, and its place is taken by a more pretentious mansion with shade trees planted nigh. North Dakota's history, or should I be off the track if no page is written there for the old sod shack? Oh, it's nearly vanished now. It brings our memories back. Oh, we once had homely comfort in the old sod shack. Let us kindly think upon it as our way through life we make. Let us treasure up these memories for old friends and friendship's sake. May the last chip of our memory, which old time will surely hack, be the one that bears the image of the old sod shack. It's nearly vanished now. It brings our memory back. We once had homely comfort in the old sod shack. Well, the old sod shack. It's not the first time we've brought it before you here on the Willow Creek Folk School, but it bears repeating. You know, I think, as I run through this song once more, that song was just lost. It was sung at an old settlers gathering, written by a fellow named Quigley, who was a school teacher, druggist, merchant, and jeweler, and an early townsman. And there was a regional meeting of old settler societies. That was a thing in prairie communities up and down the Great Plains. Old settlers would form an organization not very many years after initial settlement to say, let's recognize the people who were here before 1880 or something like that. Yeah, there were qualifications for membership. And then on public occasions, the old settlers would have some kind of a program going on, and they'd march in parades. Old settlers, they're a fixture. And then there was a Red River Valley Old Settlers Association. And then this fellow Quigley wrote the song, and he arranged it for a male quartet to sing it there. Somehow, Franz Rickaby, this young faculty member at the University of North Dakota, got hold of the program. I don't think he was there for the Old Settlers Gathering, but somebody brought in the program because he heard that this guy Rickaby was a song collector, that he had walked to Grand Forks carrying his fiddle, and that he's out riding the train out in the dead of winter to play the fiddle and sing songs and collect songs from people. And so he brought him the song. Rickaby put it into his notebook, and I'm singing. His notes are in the music library at the University of Wisconsin today, and I'm singing, you see, from copies made from his typescript, his typed notes there. In around 1900 when he acquired this. Now, it appears in a newspaper or two after this. It's in oral circulation a little bit, but this song just went away. It was gone for more than a century until we found it when we brought it back. And by God, it's a singable song, and it's a good text, and it really captures a frame of mind. That frame of mind of memory, which is a big deal for people who do history. Bear with us on this. Dr. Kelley is something of a specialist in the area with quite a bit of work in developmental psychology and how memory works with people. And I don't know, are these guys in generativity stage, or are they in life review stage?
Well, how old are they?
Well, okay, Quigley, he was probably 20-something when he came out around 1880 or something. Maybe probably around 50.
Well, I'm going to call that generativity.
Okay, so they want this stuff to be remembered. They're not just in their dotage like me, going over that. Well, okay, now that raises another subject here. And it's kind of the point of this episode here tonight. It was in 2020. You see, more than 3 years ago, we started up the Willow Creek Folk School. This is 142.
Yeah.
Now and then we're sick or we've got family affairs. We don't do one every week, but basically every week. And when it first occurred to me, I do all these songs when I was a folkie from the 70s and 80s. It'd be fun to, kind of have Old Home Week here online with my friends. And then the research historian kicked in. Oh, wait a minute. These songs we didn't think we knew, nobody knew where they came from. Wait a minute, I can figure out where they came from because the technology has arrived, and I got some chops as a research historian after 50 years in the business, and so I know where this song came from, as well as many others, and I want to talk a little bit about that this evening. So I don't think I'm in the life review stage yet, Kelley.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
I'm not going to put you there yet either.
Yeah. Then you'll put me at home probably, but let somebody else have to listen to that stuff. But it became something more than just going over the old times, the old college days, and that sort of stuff. Something. It was this enterprise of discovery. Oh, okay, and that's our episode tonight. So here's a song that was gone. It was gone, but it's good, and it's back now, and we possess it again in our country here, and that's kind of a point of pride. The Old Sod Shack, which Franz Rickaby, credit to Franz Rickaby, the early songcatcher. He died young, by the way, after just a few years at UND, during which time he wrote the fight song for the University of North Dakota. He moved to California. His doctors told him to get out of there. I think it was rheumatic fever he had when he was young. Weak heart, died very young. Great song collector, however. And by all accounts, just a charismatic character. I don't know, anything going on at NDSU Press these days that should be a note?
Well, there is. We're having some elevated activities lately.
Elevated?
This is this week and next week. The Association of University Presses is having their annual conference, and I'm able to attend it by by screen. But they just have such great information, and it's really nice to be able to learn from people who have more experience than I do and who have been working in the university press setting.
Because otherwise, around here, you're kind of making it up how to run a university press, aren't you?
Shh. Don't tell everybody. So I've been enjoying sessions with them, and really glad to be able to take part in that. Also, we're working with a permissions man now who we've had some inquiries about taking one of our books to audiobook and using an excerpt from it for national testing for kids in schools. And so I decided I need to bring in a professional. So it's been great fun learning that process too. And he acts as a sort of a liaison between us and the people doing the audiobook service and various other items. So that's a great learning opportunity. Also, I have a student who's very interested in working with permissions and contracts. So this has been another opportunity for experiential learning going on at the press.
Cool.
That's it.
Well, you're not filling up the time. We're going to have to put another song in here.
Okay.
And it's another one people have heard before from us, but I'm bringing it up for a reason. And the reason is, what's the point? Okay, the Old Sod Shack, a nice old song, cool. You learn something from it. Well, I think you learn something about that old settler dynamic and its role in prairie society. And here we learn something else. This song is called The Jail of Ellinwood. Now, for those who don't know my personal history, I grew up in Barton County, Kansas, graduated from Ellinwood High School in 19, way back there.
I thought you were going to tell about a jailing experience.
I've never been in the jail of Ellinwood.
Okay.
But Ed Duffy was. 1882, a fellow who was just, by all appearances, a transient and a drunk. Got in a little trouble, mainly just for drunk and disorderly. They got thrown in the clink in Ellinwood, Kansas. And then he just kind of disappeared. And there's no note in the paper, there was a jailbreak, or that this fellow Duffy has been cleared of charges or convicted and sentenced to such and such. It just kind of disappears. Leaves behind this sheet of paper with a set of stanzas on it. Well, now with the technology we have today, since we know his name, he signed the thing, I can find old Ed Duffy all over the place. Oh, wait a minute, here he is in Hutchinson. And here he is in Sterling. And here he is in Topeka, in jail.
Oh. And
he left the Ballad behind there. Oh, and he did that in Hutchinson too. He is a serial balladeer and a serial drunk. And now and then worse. He had a tendency to pull knives on people. He didn't kill anybody. He cut some people. Always getting into fights. Insulting ladies on the street and that sort of thing. He's always in the clink and out of the clink in towns throughout the middle of Kansas and on up to Topeka and Leavenworth also, kind of following the railroads. What's with this guy, Ed Duffy? Well, okay. So here's a song. Yeah, we found this song. It's a jailhouse ballad. And I'll sing it here in a minute. But when you get into it, then you find these connections. Oh, who is the sheriff in the song that he mentions in the song? Doesn't mention it by name, but by research will disclose it was a sheriff named Beadle, Bedell, Sheriff Beadle. Sheriff Beadle was a Union Army veteran, which is probably why, he was appointed, not sheriff, but marshal of Ellinwood, Kansas. Now, he held another office simultaneously. The Lakin Township, the rural area around the town of Ellinwood, appointed him roadmaster in charge of care of roads. The scheme being, when he caught somebody in the clink, as marshal of Ellinwood, he, as roadmaster of Lakin Township, would take him out and put him to work on the road. Well, now he's got Ed Duffy in the clink. Turns out Ed Duffy is an old soldier also. And I'm looking at his personal history. He was a drummer boy at age 11 or 12. Ran through some horrific actions. And then later re-upped as an adult, was serving at Western posts. And I don't know if he was dishonorably discharged, but he and the Army parted ways. And he never could straighten himself out. What's going on? Well, I think in modern terms, we'd say this is a pretty clear case, isn't it? This guy saw too many horrors of war. What in Great War, World War I, you call shell shock, and now in 21st century referred to as PTSD. Sheriff Beadle has him in the clink. He's supposed to be putting him out to work. But by God, he's not going to put a fellow old soldier out to work on the roads with other bums, right? So he just lets him go. You know, that has to be what happened. Just turns him loose. And then he shows up down the road in Lyons and Sterling and other towns. But he keeps other people, even if he assaults somebody in another town, there are no charges. Sometimes charges are brought, but they're dropped. What is going on? All right, now this song is a window into the post-Civil War situation. From Kansas north, the prairie states are full of Union Army veterans, and they are a brotherhood. They're members of the Grand Army of the Republic, but most of all, they're conscious that they are fellow soldiers of the Union. And when I studied the newspaper reports about this guy, Ed Duffy, some of them are a little comic, some of them are a little bit acidic, but there's a tolerance in them. Well, Ed's gotten into a little trouble again. You know, it's too bad about Ed. Why aren't people outraged about this guy who's committing one petty crime and sometimes major crimes in town after town? Because they realize there are thousands of guys like Ed Duffy out there who just can't get it together after the war. Now that, my friends, is real American social history. And this is something no doubt going on in many parts of the country. Old soldiers who become a sort of public charge. Well, and that's Ed Duffy, the Jail of Ellinwood. We got to get around to the ballad, huh, Kelley? Mm-hmm. Ed Duffy. From the Jail of Ellinwood, Kansas, 1882. I arrived in town not long ago from way out west of here, and I was feeling tired and weary. I drank some gin and beer. I was full of fun, also delight, in fact was feeling good, until the marshal arrested me and locked me in the Jail of Ellinwood. So combine your old ditties, as from tavern to tavern we steer, like every jolly fellow that drinks me lager beer. Like every jolly fellow that takes me whiskey clear. I'm a rambling rake of poverty and a son of a gambolier. Son of a gambolier. They brought me up before the judge, who asked me for a fine. I told him all of my money was out on the railroad line. All right, said he, I'll send and see. I answered, very good. And then he told the marshal to put me in the Jail of Ellinwood. So combine your little ditties and tavern we steer, like every honest fellow that drinks me lager beer. Like every jolly fellow that takes me whiskey clear. I'm a rambling rake of poverty and the son of a gambolier. Son of a gambolier. So now I have to lie in jail and work on the road, you see, until the judge can get some word about my railroad money. It's then I guess he'll let me go, at least he said he would. And then you bet that I'll steer clear of the Jail of Ellinwood. So combine your little ditties, as from tavern to tavern we every honest fellow, I drinks me lager beer. Like every jolly fellow, I takes me whiskey clear. I'm a rambling rake of poverty and a son of a gambolier. A son of 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 a gambolier. So now farewell to some of the boys who so kindly treated me. Well, there was Bill and Joe, and also young Henry Judd, you see. Likewise, the good old Marshal, who always brought me food. May he ever feed the prisoners confined in the jail of Ellinwood. So combine you all, who's tavern to tavern steer. Like every honest fellow, I drinks me lager beer. Like every jolly fellow, I takes me whiskey clear. I'm a rambling rake of poverty and a son of a gambolier. I'm a son of 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 a gambolier. From the Jail of Ellinwood, 1882. A little bit of a history lesson, broader than the jail cell. Got any friends with us tonight, Dr. K?
We do, and some of them are having a pretty good time, too.
Oh, Lord.
Well, Mary Jo Bremner is traveling. She's attending a hooding and graduation tomorrow. Ben Kabushta, I don't know why I messed that up. He and his wife are celebrating their 50th anniversary tomorrow.
Yes.
Holy smokes.
It's 50. You know, he's got a makeup date on that talk he's supposed to give in Valley City. It may be this week. Tell him to put something about it in the chat line. I think he's up to talk over there in Valley City. We'll have to drive over for that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Give him a hard time.
Yes. And then someone I haven't seen on here before, but Cade Ferris is popping in and saying hi.
Oh, Katie Ferris.
If I were on my computer, I would share with everybody some of the colorization work that he does.
Oh my God, the man's got some talent.
Yes,
he has many talents. I don't care what anybody else says. He's got many. No.
Well, when people see our new book coming out, In Order That Justice May Be Done, he did the colorization for the
cover.
For the cover,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Outstanding.
And Carmen Rathwald says hello too.
And hello to
there's lots of folks out there tonight.
Well, that's good to hear. Mark Harvey dropped in, I noticed early. We probably chased him off already. And I bet he and Gretchen have been out hiking today again. Because we go out hiking like every day. And we'll be doing that tomorrow too, Mark. I think we're headed for the Cheyenne National Grassland. We'll be loading up heavy to keep the ticks off.
Yes. I bought some super duper bug spray to carry.
Oh. Well, I think that's what we're going to do. But we get the time, at this time of year, now if you don't live on the northern plains, you don't understand quite the quickening pace of life that happens here. All these little towns that are just absolutely snowbound tombs in the winter. Suddenly, they're blossoming like flowers.
Like peonies.
And there's all kinds of stuff. You can't keep up with all the little small town events going on. But here's one we might think about, but you'd have to buy yourself a motorcycle.
I would.
Yeah, cruising for St. Jude kids. You can do it by bike or car, but of course you're not going to do it by car. Cruising for St. Jude kids. It starts out just up here the road at Hagemeister's Bar. Registration and breakfast at Hag's Bar and Grill in Mapletown. And then it says there'll be a speech. I hope Gar is not giving the speech. Somebody's giving a speech. And then they're heading, and it says kickstands up at noon, heading for the Bronco Bar in Chaffee, North Dakota, down in the Billings part of the country. Leave Chaffee and then arrive in Fingal at 1:30 at the Roadhouse in Fingal. Then from there on to the Cattlemen's Club in Lisbon, North Dakota. Anybody who's making the cruise into Lisbon, let me recommend the fried cheese curds at the Cattlemen's Club. Don't miss out on those. Leave Lisbon, arrive at the Schoolhouse in Delamere, North Dakota. I'm not sure that place. I think I've heard of it. I'll have to look it up. And then on to at the Antelope Creek Bar and Grill in Morton, North Dakota. That's south of Fargo here. Supper served at Antelope Creek, drawings for prizes, and then Zed Head, whatever that is, takes the stage at Antelope Creek Bar and Grill for a dance at 9 o'clock. That is too long a day for me, hon.
Too many stops?
Too darn many stops. This might be more our speed. There's this term I've noticed in advertising in our part of the country, and maybe it's all over the country. It's called a food truck rodeo. Have you ever heard that? Okay, what I think this is they just buy a whole bunch of food trucks and they park, and they're all serving and sometimes kind of competing for prizes for the best fare and that sort of stuff. Well, Watford City's got its food truck rodeo coming up June 9th through the 11th, so it's already started today. Some people are out there all right now, probably munching cheese curds, but it's all running all day tomorrow with mobile food vendors and all kinds of food for all, inflatables and various kinds of game tournaments, and not to be forgotten the cash bar, but nevertheless, it's a good family fun. Yeah. Okay, you ready for my favorite?
Yes.
You know how fond I am of the parish of St. Mary's Catholic Church.
Do.
Yes, east of Daisy, North Dakota, northern Barnes County. Wow. The 119th annual procession of the Corpus Christi. Tomorrow. Holy Mass at 10 a.m. And if they've still got that guy coming in from Aberdeen direct the choir, it's something to hear. I'm not saying it's a polished performance, but by God, they hit the notes, right? And then, and then they'll make the procession to the 4 points around the church property, elevating the host in each one. It's the Eucharistic procession, and all the ladies get out their rosaries. I remember marching in the Corpus Christi procession there. You weren't with me that day. But I remember it well with a 40-mile-an-hour wind blowing off the wheat fields into the trees around the procession lane there. And all the gals around me who'd been driven in from all over the country, and one had flown in from British Columbia for this, they were all had their rosaries out. And I thought, wow, my grandmother's rolling over in her grave right now. But I stopped worrying about that because, the Bible says we in the afterlife, we will neither marry nor be given in marriage. And I'm pretty sure we'll be neither Catholic nor Lutheran there either. So Grandma's, I'm sure, is all right with it now. And what I particularly liked about that is after the blessing of the host and the long Mass was over and a couple of homilies given, then we went outside and people were playing games and having a picnic, and the priest bought me a beer. Yeah. And then I bought him a beer. It was a good day. Yeah. This is one of the great religious observances. I mean, yes, it's an act of thoroughgoing piety, but to be there and observe this as a cultural event, this is just priceless. St. Mary's, the Corpus Christi celebration tomorrow, Mass at 10 a.m., procession to follow, and then back into church to complete the Mass, and then a picnic, and it goes on and on and on, and considerable amounts of beer are consumed. That's the events of the week. Anything to add?
Well, I'm going to mention that today is my youngest son Danny's 43rd birthday, so happy birthday to Danny.
Cool. I already sent him some greetings. What else can you learn from these songs?
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Somebody was sniffing at your pumpkin bread there.
Well, okay, let's just get this out in the open. Sitting here waiting to be featured on the program, and somewhere on the Plains Folk page where this thing is streaming, there's dog hairs in there. There was this beautiful loaf of pumpkin bread that I put together this morning, and often we like to snack on a little something after the folk school. And I had sitting here, and the problem was it was in Beagle reach.
Yes.
Because I had it here. I was going to hold it up and say, we're going to chow down on this afterwards.
Now they can see there's a well been made in
Yes, see that hole in the middle?
Apparently it was good.
Evidently. That's Beagle work, folks. All right. What else can you learn from these ballads? I think what I learned is that there was a remarkable appreciation for balladry, poetry, and things literary in our ancestors on the Great Plains in the late 19th century and the early years of the 20th. I'm pretty sure we were smarter people then, and we certainly were much more literate people then. Such that people recognized genres of poetry. If somebody brought into the local newspaper editor a poem and it says, "Lay of the Last Longhorn," what they mean, that editor and the readers would understand, a lay is a sort of an epic poem, just not so long as Virgil or Homer. It's a poem of consequence. A lay is sort of a statement poem. It's a genre that people understood what that was. And another type, a common type of ballad in the time was the lament. The Cowboy's Lament. So I walked out by Tom Sherman's barroom. It is what it is. It's a lament. It's a sad song. It usually has a story incorporated into it. Here's how things went so badly for me. It's a lament. The homesteader's lament is starving to death on a government claim. Yeah. How I got in such a sad shape, a lament. And when people saw that on a ballad in their local newspaper, they knew what that was. They knew what that type of poem that was going to be. I've got here now a Black Hills lament. So many a song like this one. It was picked up by songcatchers like Louise Pound and John Lomax, and they recorded versions of it, and then they got fossilized. But that song was out there being sung by hundreds, maybe thousands of people in countless versions. And now we can begin to recapture some of those. The earliest known text of the dreary Black Hills, under the original title of A Black Hills Lament, appeared in the Summit County Beacon, Joe Gardeman, in Akron, Ohio. This is an Ohio folk song, actually, about the Black Hills Gold Rush. And it's a lament, you see. These guys from Akron went out, they didn't find any gold, they came back and they're discontented, so they tell their sad story. It's a lament. And I think about that. They didn't just come back and cry in their beer. No. One of them wrote a poem and knew that this type of poem is called a lament. Oh, my word. The past is a foreign country. I'm proceeding then, once again, Keith, working from an actual facsimile. An actual facsimile. That's like artificial intelligence, isn't it? From the paper of Akron, Ohio in 1877, the Akron boys. One of the Akron boys that went to the Black Hills to seek his fortune sends back to his friends the following song, the editor says. And here it is. Kind friends, you will pity my horrible tale. I'm an object of pity, and I'm looking quite pale. I gave up my travel, selling Wright's patent pills, to go digging for gold in those dreary Black Hills. Don't go away, stay home if you can, far, far from that city that's called Cheyenne. Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill are scalping, I'm told, in those dreary Black Hills. Now it's puzzling, this business of Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill. Until you research this, you find that there was a fellow who called himself Comanche Bill. He was a dime novel hero in his mind, whose story was his parents had been killed in the Dakota War Minnesota of 1862, and he was roaming the entirety of the American West, killing any Indians he encountered. You see, it's got a real dark side to it. That's Comanche Bill, he called himself, in the dime novels about him. But what's Big Wallopy? You see, that sounds like some phony, made-up native name. No, that's a corruption. Comanche Bill's favorite horse was Wall-Eyed Pete, see, and that becomes Big Wallopy in the ballad. Now in Cheyenne, the roundhouse is filled every night with the loafers of every description and sight. No clothes on their backs, in their pockets no bills, and yet they are striking out for the Black Hills. Don't go away, stay home if you can, far, far from that city that's called Cheyenne. Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill are scalping, I'm told, in those dreary Black Hills. When I got to the Black Hills, no gold could I find. I thought of the free lunch I left far behind. Through hail, rain, and snow, from nearly froze to the gills, they call me the orphan boy of the Black Hills. Don't go away, stay home if you can, far, far from that city that's called Cheyenne. For Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill are scalping untold in those dreary Black Hills. Went to Whitewood and Spearfish and also Iron Creek. Through Molly's Park feeling quite hungry and weak. I found several colors, perhaps amounting to mills, and that's how the prospects are in the Black Hills. Don't go away, stay home if you can, far, far from that city that's called Cheyenne. For Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill are scalping, I'm told, in the dreary Black Hills. Should you ask an employer to give you a job, you'll find many before you are awaiting the nod. The consequence is hundreds of these grim bills are starting for home from the dreary Black Hills. Don't go away, stay home if you can, far, far from that city they call Cheyenne. Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill are scalping untold in these dreary Black Hills. And now, to conclude, my advice I'll unfold. Don't go to those Black Hills a-hunting for gold. Crazy horse, sitting bull, and all their pills are scalping, I'm told, in these dreary Black Hills. Go away, stay home if you can, far, far from that city that's called Cheyenne. For Big Wallopy and Comanche Bill are scalping, I'm told, in those dreary Black Hills. The Black Hills Lament, 1877. Well, if you are an old folkie like me from the 70s, then you're familiar with the name of the great Canadian folk singer Stan Rogers and his signature album, Northwest Passage. Oh, for one, just one time, I would make the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage to make a Northwest Passage to the sea. Oh, that's a testosterone-laden song that really appeared to appeal to young male folk singers at the time, and my word. But it's a song about discovery. I'm a little long in the tooth to seek the Northwest Passage, but I think we'll just keep on seeking the ballads of the Great Plains and notching discoveries one after another, and maybe avoid the fate of so many who sought the Northwest Passage and are commemorated or eulogized by Stan Rogers in his classic song. And in the meantime, we just mentioned a few of the songs we have discovered or discovered the origins and authors of. We're going to do a little food truck roundup here at the end of some others. And even with this lineup, it's just scratching the surface of the scores of discoveries from the Balladry, the Great Plains, the Century, and the Morocco. And Dr. K is going to help me out. How many? Oh, we got about half a dozen of them. Quick burst of a half dozen songs discovered and brought forward by the Willow Creek Folk School in past months.
Okay. You might think there is nothing new to discover on the well-worn rail of cowboy folk song, but then we found it, the original text and author of the Cowman's Prayer in Fort Benton, Montana, 1886. The original author of the text, John Lepley, the cattle king of the Big Sag, and the original title of the piece, The Cattle King's Prayer.
Didn't I wake you up like some early morning after having come up with these stanzas? I don't think I sang them for you, however, so here you go. Now, O Lord, please lend thine ear the prayer of the cattle king to hear. No doubt many prayers to thee seem strange. Won't you bless our cattle range?
More surprising yet, one country and western star after another, yes, I'm talking about Marty Robbins, had appropriated and mangled the song they called Utah Carol. We found the original text, Utah Carl, and its author, Harry H. Hunt, hiding out in Stillwater, Oklahoma Territory in 1893.
Yes, and so you ask, my little friend, why I'm silent, sad, and still. Why my brow's always clouded like the darkness on the hill. Pulling your pony closer, I'll tell the simple tale of the Utah Carl, my partner, once his last ride on the trail. His last ride on the trail.
We cannot leave the Twin Territories without pointing to another territorial ballad, the Ballad of Cherokee Bill. Not the bogus ballad cooked up by a couple of clubwomen and put over on the University of Oklahoma literati as a prank, but the real one penned by Cherokee Bill himself while awaiting his date with the hanging Judge Isaac Parker.
Come all you jolly highwaymen and outlaws of the land, who scorn to live in slavery or wear a convict's brand. Attention, pay to what I say, and value it if you will, while I relate the natural fate of desperate Cherokee Bill.
In the sunflower state of Kansas, who would have thought we would stumble onto the very origins of the anthem of farm activism on the prairies, The Farmer is the Man, and discover it was composed in 1874 as a Granger song by the same evangelical preacher who wrote Bringing in the Sheaves.
You may talk of all the nobles of the earth, and of kings who hold the nation in their thrall. Yet in this we must agree, if we only look to see, the farmer is the man who feeds them all. Then take him by the hand, all ye people of the land, stand by him whatever troubles may befall. We may say whatever we can, yet the farmer is the man. Yes, the farmer is the man who feeds us all.
In Nebraska, we tracked down our most precocious balladeer of them all, 14-year-old Mattie Matthews, who led her fellow Kincaid picnickers in rousing choruses of the Kincaiders' song in the Davis Grove in 1908.
Oh, you ask what place I like the best? The Sandhills, oh, those Sandhills, the place Kincaiders make their home, and prairie chickens freely roam. In all Nebraska, wide domain, it's a place I long to see again. The Sandhills is the very best. She is the queen of all the rest.
If we were going to find a great bootlegger ballad anywhere on the plains, it would have to be in North Dakota, right? Sure enough, we found the Bastille at Fargo, a prairie riff on the Irish outlaw ballad Brennan on the Moor, in Steele County, North Dakota, 1929. It is the jailhouse ballad of the bootlegger Archie L. Baker.
It was on December 21st into Madsen's garage we drove. The sheriff of Steele County was a-standing by the stove. At first I did not mind it, but it sure gave me a jar when he started walking toward us and began to search the car. They took us to Fargo. They took us to Fargo. The sheriff of Steele County took us to Fargo. They took us to Fargo. They took us to Fargo. The sheriff of Steele County took us to Fargo. So I suppose there's nothing left to do but keep following that warm line. With a deer in the antelope play, seldom is heard a discouraging word, and skies are not cloudy, are not cloudy all the day. No, the skies are not cloudy all day. Dr. Kelley.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.